Come on. We will win. Because we will hit all game. We are motivated. We are dedicated. Come on now. Come on now. We will win. Because we are the best on the field. And we hit the field like all day light, all night light, on the blue light, offense light, defense light, his squad light, house call light, and it sound light, and it sound light, and it sound light. Looks right, throws it too high. Oh, it was called on the back end. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? He called it in. ECU, the miracle win. In Lubbock today.
Goes for the end zone. The ball's in the air. It drops at the goal line. I think he counted for a touchdown. He got it. He got it. He got it. Touchdown, Nick Matthews. The Cougars win it. The Cougars win it. He gets in. He's got room to the right. Tucks. Throws anyway. In the end zone. It is caught. It's caught for a touchdown.
It's a good one. The set down. The kick is up. On the way. It is
goal. He missed the catch. Do you believe this? With 1:11 to go, he missed the kick.
He is up, and the kick is no good. And the Cougars are going to win the football game.
Donnell Barnes over on the far side. He's going to keep it himself. Cut back inside. Slams for the touchdown. And the
forever. I'ma do this here forever.
Welcome everybody to the Short Sports Show. I am your host, Daniel Short. Today is a beautiful, beautiful January 11th, Monday. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been talking about January 11th the whole year. Well, not just 2016. Okay, terrible start. Scratch all of that. Welcome everybody. It is January 11th, also known as the game day. The game day. Ladies and gentlemen, the college football playoffs will start in just a few hours, depending on when you're listening. It might have already happened, depending on when you're listening. I'm excited. I don't know what else to say other than the excitement that I have right now. It's a little bit of bittersweet, knowing that it all comes down to this. Two great teams in Alabama and Clemson going at it, 1-2 basically all year long, and then it's over. In college football, we got to wait all the way until early September, late August. I don't know if I can go in another hibernation, man. It is tough. It is tough. Thankfully, we have the NFL playoffs, but that only lasts just a couple more weeks. But let's just enjoy it right now while we got it. Just in case y'all didn't know, breaking news, I did not win the lottery. Nope, neither did anybody else. Not even close. Man, I don't know. If I had $900 million, I don't know what I'd do. I don't know. I buy a brand new, an entire studio and just go from there. All back in Seattle. It'd have been nice. I still got one more shot, $1.3 billion. You never know. And I'm not greedy. I share. But let's go ahead and get on with it. We're going to talk a couple of college football news stuff, mainly related to Clemson. And then we're going to do our preview of the college football playoffs and national championship game. Then we'll talk about the NFL later on. But I'll put it in parts so that way people who just want to hear the college football, bam, you got it like that. If you want to hear the NFL side, I got you too. So here we go. Penn State defensive coordinator Bob Shoop has agreed in principle to join Tennessee for the same role. And this is a huge, huge pickup for Tennessee. Now, at Penn State, Shoop inherited a terrible defense that ranked 48th in total yards allowed in 2013. And now in 2014, Shoop vaulted that defense to number 2 in total defense. And despite having some key departures, leaving and whatnot, he only dropped to number 14 in the nation this past year. That's not bad at all. Tennessee, imagine what they're going to do with him, and especially the recruiting. He's been in the SEC. He's been in Tennessee. He was the defensive coordinator at Vanderbilt. So he knows what it's like out there. He knows what the SEC is, and he knows how to obviously recruit and put in a great defensive scheme. So this is a huge pickup for Tennessee. Suspended Clemson wide receiver Deion Kane has enrolled back into classes, apparently choosing to remain with the program after being sent home from the Orange Bowl for violating team rules, and obviously he's still suspended for the national championship game. He was a freshman among 3 other players who were suspended for the postseason, and Dabo Swinney said that Kane would have a chance to rejoin the team next year. This past season, he became a downfield threat late in the year, had 34 catches for 5 touchdowns. Not bad. Would have been awesome to have him for this game. Guys, athletes out there, just be smart. Just be smart, because next thing you know, he might not even get a national championship ring. Who knows? If I were the coach, I'd been like, no, you don't get one. Yeah, you're part of the regular season, but you weren't part of what won the games in the end. So, no, you do not get a ring. That's what I would do. I'd be strict like that. Yes, I would. Finally, Clemson All-American defensive end Shaq Lawson said there is a, quote, very good chance he will play against Alabama in tonight's college football playoff national championship game. Now, we all remember that he suffered a sprained MCL in his left knee in the Tigers' Orange Bowl victory over Oklahoma on December 31st and left the game early and did not return. This is what he had to say on his return.
Ready, and just while I'm down here before the game, just trying to get it more stronger before I go out there and play.
What's it feel like right now? Weaknesses first?
Oh yeah, it hurt right now. I don't feel no weaknesses. I really can't really tell right now until I start moving on the field and everything. Lateral movement, lateral. Just probably about average right now. I feel like I'm getting better at it each day. I'm moving and just continue to work on that and get it back where I was at.
Ultimately, whose decision is it? Will Dabo, Venables sort of move into you to decide whether you're good to go?
Oh, I'm really not sure. Never been in a situation like this before, so I'm not really sure about that. Like a 8. Nah, I've been preparing myself to play. I've been preparing myself like I'm on the field every day, been in the film room. When I'm not out there with those guys, I'm still going through my head and I'm playing. Just continue to study the opponent. Oh, I'm not thinking about that at all. That's not my concern. My concern is win this national championship for my team. And that's what I'm trying to do, get back on that field and win it for my team.
And with that, we're going to start first with the Clemson Tigers. We're going to look at how they got here. And it all starts with the victory, 2 big dominant victories. And obviously, one was Wofford, a 49-10 victory. Nothing worth talking about. Then Appalachian State 41-10. Now, Appalachian State is a very good team. Of the group of 5, very good team. So, just a big win there, 41-10. Then they had a game against Louisville. Now, Louisville earlier in the year was projected to be a dark horse team. Now I'm not saying too much of a college football playoff team, but they thought they could get it together. They were basically talked like Auburn, except Auburn was picked to go in the playoffs, which was stupid in my mind. But a lot of hype going in. Now, Louisville starts the season 0-2, and we're like, whoa, what happened to this team? And I'm just like, it's Louisville. But anyways, they go in the game. Deshaun Watson has a terrible game, probably his worst game of the season. It was 21-30, which is great, but 199 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 picks. Now, Wayne Gallman, he rushed for 24 carries, 139 yards, did some things to keep it going. But the final score of 20-17, it stayed close throughout. In the end, Louisville almost had the comeback, scoring a touchdown in the fourth quarter, and just was 3 points away from getting this game in a different direction. But defense was there for Clemson, and that's really what saved them. With the 2 turnovers both teams had, Clemson barely had more first downs than Louisville, 20-16. But in total yards, the Louisville defense came up clutch, and this is what leads on throughout the season about this defense. Held Louisville to 272 yards, while Clemson had 401. Ultimately is what helped them. But that's where it was like, okay, well, who is this Clemson team? Are they the team that dominates the smaller teams And when they play some solid competition, we didn't know who Louisville truly was, which obviously they bounced back pretty well. Are they going to be struggling? Is this really a playoff team? So they go on to the next game, which was their toughest yet on paper. And that was going to be Notre Dame. Notre Dame came to town. They were number 6 at the time. And this was one of the best games of college football. Deshaun Kaiser is now in after Malik Zaire gets hurt. Questions about him, but he does well. Over 320 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Deshaun Watson struggled passing the ball. 10 of 21, 84 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Now, if you look back on these 2 games earlier in the season, you're thinking to yourself, there's no way this guy gets invited to the Heisman Trophy ceremony. There's no way. Less than 200 total yards in the past 2 games. Not going to happen. Wayne Gallman still does his thing. 23 carries, 111 yards. Deshaun Kaiser tried to do what he could. Notre Dame just started with their running back problems. CJ Prosise was their leading receiver. 4 receptions, 100 yards, and a touchdown. But Notre Dame had 4 turnovers. That is what helped Clemson, and they stopped them on the 2-point try to win the game 24-22. Notre Dame had it in the end. They were shut out from the second and third quarter, and then they scored 19 points in the fourth, trying to tie it, and did not get it as Deshaun Watson and Clemson remained undefeated to a 4-0 start. Now after that, a couple of easy games go by. You have Georgia Tech, dominating victory 43-24. Boston College, 34-17. Over a really good defense. I believe that defense was, top 5 in the country? I think it was number 2. Still, 34-17. So now they're starting to get things going. Then a huge victory. Now, Miami has struggled, but a dominant victory on the road in Miami, 58-0. They pitched a shutout. The worst loss Miami's ever suffered in its entire history. Then came the game of North Carolina State. Now, North Carolina State was ranked at this time, a pretty high ranking. And if you guys remember, I picked North Carolina State. I thought it was all going to catch up to Clemson. And I thought, all right, North Carolina State, with their offense, I know their defense is pretty, it's lacking some contributors. But I thought North Carolina State at home could win this game. Well, that's when it all started on my picks going down the drain. Deshaun Watson just goes off 23 of 30, 383 yards, 5 touchdowns. Wayne Gallman, 31 carries, 172 yards, a touchdown. This guy's been doing it all year long. And they just do their thing, having a total offense of 623 yards. 623 yards. North Carolina State had 389, so you're thinking, okay, defense did bad. But then when your offense puts up almost double of what North Carolina State did, all right, that's fine. That's fine. A huge victory, 56-41. But now you start seeing a trend, though, of Clemson not really closing out games, or they're closing them out because obviously they're getting the W, but it's a question mark. They give up 14 points in the fourth quarter while being outscored to 9 points. It hasn't really looked too well on their part. And that's what worries me. I mean, we're going to still continue to talk about Clemson here. That in the fourth quarter, I don't know if they're getting tired. I don't know what it is on the defense or offense just not putting up as many points. But they're starting to see a trend of more points being put on them in the fourth quarter. Now with Alabama, how they run their offense, depending on what they do, because obviously it was a different offense with against Michigan State. But if they continue to dominate them on the ground like Dalvin Cook did with Derrick Henry, and then you have the passing game of Jake Coker, who's finally become a quarterback, it's a question mark on the fourth quarter defense and this fourth quarter Clemson team. So after North Carolina State, they have another tough game, this time at home. It's Florida State. Now, we all talked about Dalvin Cook, and he did his thing against this defense. It was a question mark. How would Clemson's defense respond to Dalvin Cook? They haven't seen a running back like him. And they struggled. and rightfully so. 21 carries, 194 yards, and a touchdown. Now, Sean McGuire just didn't have it in him in this game. Now, there was question marks who was going to start at quarterback for Florida State. Was it going to be Everett Golston coming back from injury, or was it going to be Sean McGuire? They started Sean McGuire. Not saying it would have been any different, but question mark. I was going to go with Everett Golston. That's what I said on the show. Sean McGuire, 16 of 29, 164 yards and a pick. Deshaun Watson does okay. 297 yards and a touchdown. He also rushed for 107 yards as well, though. But again, this offense came through. Now, even though the defense gave up 361 total yards, they had 512. Florida State had 2 turnovers, couldn't get anything going. Clemson dominated the time of possession. Final score 23-13. Then move on. They had Syracuse, Wake Forest. Who cares? They had South Carolina. Now, while the scoreboard indicates that it was close of 37-32, it wasn't really that close. I mean, they had them away. I'll even pull it up right here. I guess it could add to the stat of the fourth quarter. They give up 15 points while only scoring 9 points in the fourth. Question. Now, they did a good job against Florida State. They held them to zip. They didn't score any. Florida State didn't score anything in the fourth quarter, but still a question mark. Then that finally let them undefeated regular season, somewhat regular season. Then they have the ACC championship game against North Carolina Tar Heels. Now, Tar Heels at the time, offense was rolling. They looked like they were the dark horse team. Now, late in the year, they're like, well, if a few things happen, if Clemson goes down, if Bama goes down, depending on how the Big Ten goes down, UNC, we could find them right on the edge and maybe move up. Who knows? So, again, I'm not a hater of Clemson. I do like Clemson. Throughout the season I did, but I just felt like they were going to fall apart at one point. And I don't know if it was a Clemson-y thing or what it was, but I just felt they were going to fall apart at some point. Well, it didn't happen. It hasn't happened. North Carolina loses to Clemson 45-37. Again, in the fourth quarter, Clemson scores 10 points, but North Carolina scores 14. We're getting close. Marquise Williams, I believe that's the name, scored 224 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a pick for North Carolina. He also rushes for 81 yards and on 17 carries. Deshaun Watson does pretty solid, 289 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 pick. Wayne Gallman does his thing, 28 carries, 187 yards, and a touchdown. Again, over 608 yards for Clemson as they just, again, the offense continues to roll at this point. And then after defeating UNC, they take on Oklahoma. We know how that game went. It was close in the first half, and then they just shut them out. So, with that, where do we go from here? What type of Clemson team are we going to see? Now, they played some tough teams. Early in the year, close games, but it seemed like they learned from that. And they got better each week when it came to the bigger games. The offense, over 600 yards, over 500 yards in majority of these big games. But now they play a defense like Alabama, which is pretty scary if you come to think of it. Third overall in points against. Their defense is just one of the top in the nation. And they're led by some scary guys. I mean, you're not supposed to be intimidated. But when you look at this Alabama defense, just based on their history and what they have now, you're just, it's a question mark. It's just, wow, this team might be legit. And by saying that, these guys might move on to the pros and actually do something. Not like a D. Milner where he had all this hype and then it fell apart. These guys might actually have something here. Just they're based on their instincts. But Alabama opens up the year in a dominating performance. Just absolutely dominates Wisconsin. In my mind, I didn't think there's any way Alabama would lose to Wisconsin. Because to me, Wisconsin, Joel Staubach, I've talked about him all year long when we had to, when Wisconsin was always ranked for some stupid reason. He's a terrible quarterback. He really is. So I was like, you know what? Alabama's just going to shut this team down, make them run the ball. And then when Clement got hurt, there's no way that Alabama was going to lose this game. They dominate. Jake Coker in his first game from a transfer quarterback, 15 of 21, 213 yards, and a touchdown. Derrick Henry, 13 carries, 147 yards, and 3 touchdowns against this Wisconsin defense, which you cannot take lightly. That's why they stayed in a lot of these games and won the games that they did, is because of that defense. And Alabama just, kind of ran all over them. 502 total offensive yards from Alabama. From Alabama, they did that. They forced a turnover. That starts the reign that they had for their defense. 27 first downs compared to 17 for Wisconsin. And, it just wasn't close. Derrick Henry, 37-yard run, 56-yard run. And those are only his touchdown runs. That's not to mention the other big runs he got away from. But overall, it was just a dominating performance for Alabama to open up the year. Then they had, their normal game against some weak opponent. Middle Tennessee State, 37-10. And then came a team called Ole Miss. Now, Ole Miss, little question mark on what was going to happen with this team. Now, they were starting off strong. I think they put 70 points up the first 2 games. And okay, well, they weren't really big opponents, but now they're at Alabama. And I believe Ole Miss defeated Alabama last year as well. So we're trying to see, okay, who is this Ole Miss team? Well, Chad Kelly had something to say, and he just went off. 341 yards, 3 touchdowns. Jake Coker struggled, 201 yards, had 3 passing touchdowns, but ultimately 2 interceptions that led to 5 total turnovers for Alabama, which cost them the game. 43-37, Alabama goes down. Obviously, there's that talk, Alabama dynasty's over with. They don't have a quarterback. Derrick Henry's great and all, but this team's going to fall apart. They're just not the same. And Alabama dominated the time of possession of 35 minutes, had more first downs, almost double the first downs that Mississippi had. But the 5 turnovers is what cost them. And Ole Miss took advantage of those in every single way with putting points on the board. Treadwell went off. The whole Ole Miss just came to play. So it drops Alabama their first game and their last loss. They take on ULM. They dominate them. Then came the Georgia game. Now, Georgia was highly, I believe they were favored in this game. Okay, I'm saying even, but I thought I saw somewhere where Georgia was favored in this game. And we thought, okay, this is the year Georgia actually gets over the hump. They beat Alabama. They saw what happened with Ole Miss. They're going to try to run that same type of offense, and they can get this done. It's in Georgia. It's a big game. They got it. Nope. Grayson Lambert couldn't do anything. 86 total passing yards and a pick. Nick Chubb was still there. 20 carries, 146 yards, and a touchdown. Could do what, only could do so much. But Derrick Henry, 26 carries, 148 yards, and a touchdown. Calvin Ridley, 5 receptions, 120 yards, and a touchdown. Jake Coker, 11 of 16, 190 yards, and a touchdown. And really, you can only throw – it's okay for him to throw 16 total passes when you got Derrick Henry feeding him about 26 times. And Alabama just cruises through this game, 38-10. It was 24-3 at halftime. They never looked back. Georgia had 4 turnovers as Alabama dominates this victory. So, again, they go on. They play A&M. They take them out. They play Arkansas. They take them out. They take on A&M. They defeat them. They go through Tennessee, a tough game against Tennessee, but ultimate victory at 19-14. And then came the ultimate meeting. Who was going to... A whole lot of questions into this game. LSU, number 2 in the country at the time. And they were led by Leonard Fournette, who was the Heisman favorite up until this point. After this game, he disappeared. And that's because of what Alabama did. They just held him down to 31 yards. Brandon Harris still couldn't throw the ball. I didn't know how that worked. 6 of 19, 128 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. Jake Coker, 184 yards, no touchdowns, and no interceptions. But Derrick Henry, they fed him 38 times, 210 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Calvin Ridley, 51 yards. 434 total yards of offense for Alabama compared to 182 of LSU. They dominated the time of possession 39 minutes to 20. 28 first downs to 12. Alabama knows what it's like in these big games. They dominated LSU. And LSU was, I don't believe they were the favorite. No, Alabama was the favorite by 9 points. But we thought maybe LSU could get it done here. They could win this game, especially, again, how other teams have played. Nope. Did not happen. So Alabama, that puts them up pretty high to this point. They take on Mississippi State on the road. They handled them 31-6. Charlotte State, not even worth. Auburn, a close game throughout like the first half, and then it just kind of sealed away for Alabama. Then they had Florida in the SEC championship game. 2 great defenses, but 1 terrible offense, and ultimately that's what led to Alabama's victory. Then a dominating performance, an offense that we've never truly seen from Alabama as they just dominated this game. Jake Coker played a game of his life. He just dominated this. 25 of 30, 286 yards, 2 touchdowns. Derrick Henry did get the ball 20 times, but only 75 yards and 2 touchdowns. But they hold Connor Cook 19 of 39, 210 yards, 2 interceptions. Michigan State had 2 turtle. I said turtle again. Oh, my God. 2 total turnovers. Jeez. But Alabama in total offense, 440 compared to 239. They just dominated this game 38-0. They just never looked back. 10-0 at halftime, and then 21 points in the third quarter. Calvin Ridley just did his thing. Cyrus Jones, huge punt return. And now we're looking at a much more scarier Alabama team than I think any in the past. Whether it was led by Greg McElroy, whether it was led by the other quarterback that I can't think of who's Indiana, A.J. McCarron, the guy who's actually relevant. None of those teams were this scary as this one. And the crazy part is about Alabama, they don't have those names on defense like we used to have with, Dante Hightower. The list goes on and on. The defensive names that they had back then. But this year, it's just like they're an actual team defensively. Offensively, Jake Coker has finally found it, and he looks to become the first transfer quarterback to win a national championship as a starter since Auburn's Cam Newton. So, could be a little history right here happening. I don't know. It's going to be a very strange game. Ultimately, looking at it now, who wins it? After all of that, it's a tough one. But in the end, I'm seeing a Alabama victory of 20. I'm going to go 29-20. Final score. And that's it. I think Alabama just pulls away. They do that. They're basically like a snake. They just slowly crush you, and then they swallow you whole, and they win the game. I want Clemson to win this. I truly do. I don't dislike either of these teams. I'm a fan of both, but I think Alabama just has it in them. I think they know it. They want it. Nick Saban has told them about the past, and I think Alabama completes it this year, and they win it. 29-20. I want to hear what you have to say. I'm going to hear a lot of hate from Alabama fans when I was doing the Clemson preview. I'm going to hear a lot of hate from Clemson fans that I picked Alabama to win. I'm ready for it, guys. I'm ready. It's my opinion. I want to hear your opinion, why you believe which team will win and the final score. Let me know. You can also follow me on Twitter at @short_sports 24/7 or become a fan on Facebook, The Short Sports Show. All links are down in the description below. Thank you so much for listening for the college football playoff preview. And, man, it's going to be an exciting game tonight. Either way, we're going to have a great game no matter what. So I will see you guys Friday morning on The Short Sports Show. As always, God first, God bless. I'm out. Peace.
Forever. I'ma do this here forever. Forever. I'ma do this here forever. Forever. I'ma do this here forever. Forever. I'ma do this here forever.
I done came way too far for me to stop it now. I done worked way too hard just to drop it now. We came so